Assalamu alaikum, everybody. How are you all doing? Inshallah, you're all doing well. You do have to forgive me for the delay today. Facebook's changed everything, and you know how it goes when you haven't checked, and then they've changed things, and you then have to make sure you are getting it right. So I've had to start this video a few times. You have to forgive me for the delay today. So I do apologise for that. So let me know where you're all from today. Every Tuesday I will be here and discussing how we can spiritually prepare ourselves for Ramadan, inshallah. And today is a very important topic. I'm just sending this to our group. Just 1 second. Yeah, so let me know in the comments where you are all from and how you're doing and how are you coping, because many countries now are in lockdown, aren't they? So I'm sorry, when I've posted this, I'm free. Okay, so that's done. So yes, please let me know where you're all from. I'm going to write in the comments so you can see this as well. And today is an extremely important topic. How can we protect our teens in a hyper-sexualized world, especially as we're heading towards Ramadan? Every Tuesday in the lead up to Ramadan, I am doing a series called Spiritually Preparing for Ramadan, and I'm going to discuss things that we can do to prepare ourselves for this holy month, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Angela. How are you doing? You're in Scotland. Hope you're doing okay. We are fine, alhamdulillah. We're in semi-lockdown, I would say. We can go for walks and things, but the vast majority of places are closed with the exception of grocery stores, pharmacies, and things that people really need. So, you know, but we're okay, alhamdulillah. So, Assalamu alaikum, Akbar from Gujarat. How are you doing? You're in a lockdown and you're supporting it. Very good. We should support it and we shouldn't be going out because we need to slow down this virus. You know, we have many vulnerable people amongst us, and of course we don't want them to get it because it can be critical for other people, subhanallah. So we do have to take care of our community as well as ourselves. Yeah, so every Tuesday I am doing, until Ramadan, I am doing a series called Spiritually Preparing for Ramadan. And this one is really, no kids should be watching. This is why Layla's not here, because we need to discuss how we can protect our Muslim youths and teens from a hypersexual world, especially as we're heading towards Ramadan. Everything now is all about sex and the physical body and beauty and so on like this, as you all know. And it's not just in the West. This is creeping into majority Muslim countries, and it is creeping in there. And I know it because I lived in Egypt for a long time and I saw it starting in there as well. In the time I first moved to when I left, there was a big change, and it's rapidly growing in these countries because they are so desperately trying to be westernized. Now, there's so many things we can get from the West that are good, but this is not one. So, you know, we do need to know how to deal with our kids, especially our teenagers and our youth at this time. And you know, it's very difficult for them. So we do need to give them tips throughout the year, but especially as we're heading towards Ramadan, because we don't want them to be doing anything haram or bad in this way during, you know, Ramadan, of course. So we do live in a hyper-sexualized world these days where everything is about sex and the physical body. And in the West, if you live in the UK, Angela, you'll know, but for those of you probably who also live in the West, you get certain programs, and I've never watched it, alhamdulillah, but it's called Love Island, where there's a group of young people in their late teens, early 20s, something like this, and they're looking for love, and they get sent out onto this island, and I assume they have to somehow date each other. You know, there's so many women, so many men, and it's all about the body and how beautiful they all look, or how good they look as men, and so on. And, you know, a lot of the girls on there have had surgeries at such a young age. You know, they have these fillers and stuff, and they're in their early 20s, and they're wearing practically nothing, and it's live on TV. And you're just thinking, our kids, our teenagers are watching this. And if we don't think they are, then we are deluded, because, of course, they are going to watch this kind of thing at some point. They're going to see it. And we need to help them steer away from such things and thinking that this is a normal way to live. And we need to give them the confidence, especially as women who are covering, if they are covering, even if they're not covering, but at least dressing modestly is better than walking around like this. Now, most of you, the majority of you are all young anyway, subhanAllah, but there are some of us who are, you know, we've had our youth, and we are older now, so we can see that this is going to be a problem. Now, if you're someone like me who a convert, I've experienced both sides. So I've been in that world where, you know, you don't feel you have any restrictions to what you can and can't do. And then, of course, I became a Muslim, so I now have them. And that's somehow after you are channeling your teen to come away from this part of the world into this part, to try and make them understand that this is not really acceptable. And we have to do it in a clever way. So our teens, they really can't escape it. And, you know, we have to stop them from thinking this is normal. You know, a bunch of young men and women showing off everything on a show to try and find love. This is not what love's all about anyway. Being scantily clad, you know, on live TV, and being expected to do certain things with a stranger you've only just met. So this is not normal life anyway, but this kind of program is making people think this is okay. And also you have social media channels such as Instagram now, where, you know, somebody's took 50 million pictures to have this beautiful look about them, you know, and our teenagers are looking at this and they're thinking, oh my goodness, she's beautiful, she's this, she's that, or he, look at his body, he's fantastic if it's boys, and so on. But they don't get that, you know, this is not the first shot of the day. This is a million that she's took in order to be, to make it perfect. And this is how she's done it. So we do have to try and steer them and tell them properly, this is not the reality. And reality is not about, you know, these women with contour makeup to make their face look different, or, you know, they're young girls pumping their lips so they look massive. You know, we need to give them the reality. So it's difficult. It's a difficult balancing act. And if you are young watching this, I hope you get something from it as well. We have to speak to our teens about this kind of thing, sex, physical appearance, all this kind of thing in the context of Sharia, of course, and we should not be burying our heads in the sand. So if they come to us and, or, you know, and pretend that it's not happening, you know, we shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't be pretending that this kind of programs don't exist, or Instagram, oh, it's full of innocent people having a good time, and that. We shouldn't pretend like this. We cannot pretend that this is not happening. It is happening. And if we don't address it in the proper way, our teenagers, our youth are just going to go and follow their own path. And you know what it's like to be a teenager or a youth. I mean, it's not that long ago, but your hormones are raging. You are wanting to dominate and challenge the world in any way possible, you know, and on top of that, you think you know everything, and you think you know you're right. And let's face it, that is the youth and the teens. So we have to tackle it in a good way, and we have to tackle it so they feel confident, they understand that what's what, and they're not going to look at these people as idols or, oh, this is now how the world is, because it's not. If you look at these programs, Instagram, and then you look outside in reality, it's very different. But unfortunately, our youth can be led down that path as to thinking this kind of thing is quite normal. Also, the issue that we may have for if you live in the West, is they have non-Muslim friends. This is fine. But then you've got the issue of, oh, well, my friend has a boyfriend, or my friend has a girlfriend. How come I can't have one? You know, it's normal. Everyone's doing it. So you then have that whole topic and that whole conversation to be dealing with. And you can't just say, because I said so, or because it's haram, and then leave it at that. We don't live in that kind of world anymore where that's enough for our kids. Like maybe we did that as kids, maybe our parents did that as kids, but our kids don't do that anymore, and our younger ones definitely will not be doing that when they get to that age. So it's all about communication and discussing and being honest as possible. And we have to acknowledge that our youth are exposed to far more sexual activity these days than we were. And this is the reality, and we have to face it head on. They are exposed to things such as sex before marriage. They are exposed to girlfriend, boyfriend being a normal way of life, even at young age. I mean, we had a program on for my daughter the other day, and it was about little gymnasts, you know, because she's into gymnastics now. So she's watching it, and these girls were maybe 12 years old. And already in that program, even though it's mainly about gymnastics, and we had to switch it off and not let her watch the rest because we made the mistake of not watching it first, which we should have done. But already in that program, these 12-year-olds were attracted to each other. And, you know, the whole, the boy came round and helping the girl do the homework and all this as young as 12. And let's not be fooled, this is going to be even younger in certain schools, in certain countries, in certain situations. So we have to be prepared, and we have to really take it on board that they do see this as perfectly normal. You know, it's normal to have a boyfriend or girlfriend. It's normal to have this kind of relationship outside of marriage. And we have to be the ones to tell them, no, it is not. So we can't, as I said, we can't just say it's haram and leave it at that. We need to engage with them, and we need to be honest with them. We cannot shelter them from promiscuity. We cannot. You can't keep your kids in the house, and if you're living in the West, anywhere nowadays actually, and expect them not to see some promiscuity going on. They're going to see it going on, because that's just the way the world. They might not now because we're all in lockdown in coronavirus, but you know, it's on TV programs. They can switch on the TV. They can see this thing. I mean, I'm talking about the West here, but oh, come on. I have seen programs in Egypt in Ramadan promoting this kind of thing, even if it's not direct. It's definitely, the idea is there of this beautiful woman and she needs saving by the man in Ramadan of all times. You know, it's really ludicrous, but these programs happen everywhere now, you know, you know, this promiscuity, and we can't shelter them. I'll tell you, we cannot shelter them from promiscuity. We cannot shelter them from homosexuality. We cannot shelter them from pornography, because it's out there, and we cannot just shut them up and say this is all wrong, don't do it. And because they're just going to go off, they're hearing their friends, they've got of course the best friend Google, and you know, they are tech savvy, and they are more tech savvy than us, so they're going to find this stuff. So we have to prepare ourselves and them for what they may face. We can't stick our heads like ostriches and pretend this is the world. This isn't the world, because it is. So we shouldn't belittle the haram. neither. Let's be clear. All these things we shouldn't belittle. You know, we shouldn't dust over them and say, oh yeah, people are doing it. And so, no, we should be clear that we need to be calm and we need to take a step back and we need to acknowledge this world that we are now living in, and then we need to tackle it. Because if they are not getting the answers from us, they are going to get their answers from their friends, from friend Google, from other unreliable sources, and they are going to think this is perfectly normal when it isn't. So we do have to be really careful about all of that. So how can we discuss their concerns? Because they're going to come to us, they're going to have concerns, they're going to wonder about this, that, and the other, and we have to be clear with them. And we should discuss their concerns in the terms of the Quran and Sunnah. And we should acknowledge, yes, sex is for pleasure within the sanctity of marriage. So no one is saying, and Allah certainly never said, that sexual relations is bad. He said it's bad outside of marriage. But between a man and a wife, it is not just for procreating, it is also should be a pleasurable experience, and we should explain that to them. We shouldn't give them this bad idea that it's a dirty, taboo issue that we should never talk about. This is wrong as well, because this is not right. And, you know, we should most definitely make sure that they have a clear, healthy understanding of this kind of thing between a man and a woman who are married. Okay, that is really, really important. In the Quran, it says the man and the woman are garments for each other, and I think it's such a beautiful way of putting it. Or the Quran, as you know, is eloquent and beautiful in any way that you think about when it's describing many things in life. And I really do like that. I really like how it describes the relationship between a man and a woman, married, man and wife, let's say husband and wife, that we are garments for each other. And that means in emotions, in physicalness, and of course in sex. So we have to really understand that, and we have to get them to understand that yeah, it's fine, it's healthy, it's good, as long as you're married. And that's how it should be. Taming the NAFS, as you all know, is extremely challenging. It's not easy whatsoever. And, you know, when you're telling anyone, especially young men and women, lower your gaze, guard your private parts, it's difficult for them. And we've got to acknowledge that as well, because, you know, again, the hormones raging in the body, it's so easy for them to just go with what they desire. And we have to try and tell them, this is all perfectly normal. It's normal for you to have physical attractions to the opposite sex. It's normal that, you know, your 16-year-old boy is sitting in his class and he's finding his 16-year-old colleague girl, she's pretty, and it's okay, he finds her attractive. This is fine. What's not fine is if he acts on that, or if they act on that in any way, shape or form. And we have to be firm on that with our teens. It's okay to be physically attracted to someone. There is nothing wrong in that. There is no haram in that. What is the haram is when we act on it. And acting on it can be speaking inappropriately to this person, touching, just, you know how you, when you like someone, and if you can read this, you know, they have these playful taps and things. This is wrong. Being left alone in the room together is wrong. Tell them, you know, all these little steps before the big act, all of these things are wrong and you should avoid doing them. We're just friends, right? You know, you might hear this a lot. We're just friends. Well, no one's just friends if you're man and woman, because one of you always likes the other one more than the other. or you might mutually like each other. And one of them always wants it to go to the next level if they both don't want it to go to the next level. So there's no such thing as just good friends between a man and a woman. And no matter how many times people will sit there and tell you, we're grown-ups, there is such thing, we can differentiate, and all this, that, and the other. No, one of you will always like the other one more. And one of you will always be hoping that something else is going to happen out of this friendship. And this has been tested, by the way, and I've seen it floating around a couple of times on Facebook, or even YouTube. And they did an experiment, and it wasn't Muslims, it was non-Muslims. And they did an experiment of people in a friendship, man-woman friendship. And they were asking, they mainly the men, but sometimes the women, always wanted it to be more than just friends. They were just being patient, you know, but they always had more feelings because they wanted it to be something more. So there is no such thing as a man and woman friendship. There is absolutely no such thing as that. And that's what we have to be clear with our youth. And we have to explain that to them. There is that, again, there is nothing wrong with physical attraction, but it depends on what you do with that. And anything, any act at all on that is wrong. Giving each other phone numbers, we're just texting each other. What does texting lead to? Texting leads to flirty text, maybe more graphic ones with pictures and things like this, hearts. It's just a heart. We have to let them know one of these slowly lead to the wrongdoing, and this is what we have to stay away from. So we have to really help them there. Now, we shouldn't look down on them and laugh it off and say, oh, you know, what do you know, and all this, that, and the other. Their feelings are genuine and their feelings are real. And if you can remember when you were that age, you will know that these are real, genuine feelings they have. And we have to acknowledge that. But we also have to guide them and steer them into the right direction. So how can we do that? First of all, they have to find good company. They have to have good friends. This is for anyone, actually. But if you are with the wrong group of friends, you are eventually going to do the wrong kind of behavior. Even if you are strong-willed and in the beginning you're not doing anything they're doing, eventually you will break and you will stop, because you will start to see that this is normal behavior, so it's not that bad. And then eventually you'll find yourself sitting in a mixed group of people, or sitting, oh, she's nice, and they're, you know, a young brother might be saying to these friends who aren't maybe not as good, oh, she's nice, and they're all egging him on, yeah, go on, go for it, go for it, go for it, and he does. So really keeping good friends is really important, because they will pull you back when you are going in the wrong direction. We also need to help them channel their time and energy in towards healthy activities. Now, this doesn't mean Islamic activities. I want to be clear there. Of course, Islamic activities is very good, but we need them to channel their energy into healthy activities, not necessarily Islamic ones. Do they like sports? Then get them into a sport team, or, you know, because a lot of sports will be training, and their mind is mainly focused on training. It's not going to be focused on anything else. So that's good. Are they interested in cooking? Are they interested in writing or anything like this? And you can find clubs for them or things like that to join, so that they can be focused. Their mind is focused away from the sexual desires that they have to something else, you know, that's more productive, that's going to keep them on the straight and narrow, and that's really good. If they're putting all their time and effort into something that's healthy and good, they're reducing their thought process on that other thing. So that's really important. Good time management, good company, keep youth from falling into traps of the sexual desires. So whatever you can think of for them, what they like, then that's important for them to get involved in and do. charities, volunteering organizations like this can be Islamic, doesn't have to be Islamic. Maybe they're passionate about the environment, and you know near you a local environmental organization. Get them to join it, get them going out there. Maybe they like helping feeding people, then of course you can find some good charity that can take them, because often of course if you can get them into an Islamic charity to volunteer and everything, it's good, because often they are separating them anyway, and of course they are doing good, they are then getting hasanat and all this kind of thing and so on. Maybe they like teaching, maybe they can volunteer at a youth club or something like this to help the kids, and things like this. Just anything that's taking them away from being sat alone in their room on their phone, Googling or texting, or things like that. So it's really important. Allah speaks openly about sexual relations in the Quran with honor and respect. So we have to speak about it in that same way to our kids. We don't want them to have these bad images that this is a bad thing, because it's not a bad thing as long as it's between a man and a wife. It's bad if it's done outside of marriage, as we all know. So we need to talk to them openly, and we need to give the sexual relations the same honor and respect as Allah does, and make it clear that this honor and respect is for man and wife only. Because of course, on the other hand, Allah also talks about zina, adultery, and how it is punishable. So we need to balance that out. It's a very good thing between a man and a wife. It's healthy. It should be pleasure. It should be for pleasure. It should be for procreating. But on the other hand, outside of marriage, if you're going to do this outside of marriage, and you also have to put an accountability on them as well. If you are going to follow this path outside of marriage, know that you are going to be asked about it in front of Allah if you do this. So they need to have the balance. They need to have the healthy view. You need to talk to them. You need to educate them properly, because if you don't educate them properly and talk to them, it will also be on you. And then you also need to give them, if you are going to choose to follow this route, because when they're teenagers, there's not a lot you can do to stop them. So if you are going to follow this route, just know that Allah is watching, and it is a serious sin in Islam, and it will, there is a punishment for it if you don't make tawbah and so on. So they need to know both ideas, and they need to be clear of it, okay? And we can even tell them, read the surah of Yusuf, because this, it's probably one of my favorite chapters in the whole Quran, because the whole chapter is Yusuf's story. And I admire Yusuf, mashallah. And he, of course, was confronted with this problem. He was a young man, and he was a servant for a very beautiful lady, of course, and her husband. And she felt that she could seduce him, because she was mesmerized by this beautiful young man in her house. And he made dua to Allah, I'd rather be in prison than face this. And, he really, come on, he was a young man. For sure he was tempted. None of us know, because we weren't around at that time. Assalamu alaikum, Andrew, how are you doing? From Waynesville, North Carolina. I know from Sister Naila's video. Assalamu alaikum, Mies from UK, like me. But I'm not there, I'm living in Canada. Assalamu alaikum, Irfan from Philippines. And assalamu alaikum, Layla. How are you all? I have seen you. I'm sorry, I've just got carried away. So Yusuf, he knew he was going to be tempted. He knew he would probably do wrong. So he made dua to Allah to get him out of this situation, and it worked. So I mean, he went to prison, not for anything he'd done, but just to get, because he asked Allah anyway to get out of this, and Allah got him out. And then obviously in the end, the story by the wife that she tried to say was proved wrong, and he was proven to be the right one. So Yusuf was young, and this happened to him. So if our teens are really struggling with this, we can ask them, read Surah Yusuf in the Quran, and I am sure that you can get tafsir, or you can find some of these trusted scholars explaining Yusuf's story, and get them to watch things like this. If you, of course, have not got the knowledge, you're not unable. And also, if they have gone down that path, and we have to be realistic that some of our teens will go down that path, whether we've talked to them about it, whether we haven't talked about it. Temptation's there, and we're human, and many of us get tempted by things that we shouldn't get tempted by. Even if you have given them a clear view of how it should be, sometimes it can happen. So if they have gone down that path, of course you're going to be disappointed, and you're going to be sad, you're going to be hurt, you're going to be upset for them as much as yourself, because the issue that what may happen for them is if they don't repent and make tawbah, and you have to pull them back. It's your job as the parent. So what should you do if your child has gone down that path? For sure, you're going to be disappointed and angry, and you should let them know that you're disappointed. Let's not skirt around it. This was something you shouldn't have done, and you've gone and done it. You've broke our trust, and so on. There has to be consequences. But you shouldn't hold this against them for the rest of their life, because to make them feel really bad. And we all make mistakes, and we may not have made such a bad mistake like that, but at the same time we may have done. So we need to think about it, and we need to try and think, well, how can I guide my daughter or son in a better way? Because obviously they've gone and made this decision, they've gone and made such a big sin like zina. How can I pull them back? So first of all, yes, you do have to express that you are disappointed and that you are sad about it, but and that your trust is broken, and they have to work obviously hard to get that trust back. Secondly, you have to be a bit of a friend, and I know that's hard when they've done something like that, but they need someone there for them, and they need somebody to comfort them in a way, because if they feel really guilty, which a lot of them may do, and you just make them feel even worse, it can crush them, and you don't know if it's going to push them to go out and do it again. So you're going to have to put your feelings aside for the moment and just talk to them, and let them express their feelings, let them cry, let them talk, let them talk, and you're going to have to listen, and then you're going to have to advise them what to do. Okay, and then you can tell them how to make tawbah, sincere tawbah. Allah will forgive you, because Allah forgives all sins, as long as you don't, as long as you get, you're sincere. So move away from it. That's one of the steps of tawbah. Move away from that thing. So if he or she has a boyfriend, girlfriend, that's it. Finish it. End it. That's enough. Move away. They have to go. And then, of course, you make your tawbah, you ask Allah for forgiveness, and then, of course, you start your life down another way, and then you help them go that direction instead of back to that person who you've asked them to leave. And I'm going to leave it on a very nice story that I heard. Exactly, means support them, because you're going to be sad and angry. That's not, but at the same time, they need you as their guidance, and they need you to guide them now. They don't need you to be putting all the world on their shoulders. They need guidance. And I'll leave you on this nice story that I heard, and it's on our website, so I'll try and find it and put it in the comments and you can watch it. But it was a beautiful thing that a mother and father had done. They had a teenage son, Muslim, okay, all this stuff, of course. They had a teenage son, and he had gotten a girlfriend, and she wasn't Muslim. Although it doesn't really matter if she is or isn't, let's face it, they shouldn't be doing that. But he'd gotten this girlfriend, and his parents found out about it. Of course, they were angry and sad, but they decided to, the way they approached it, I was really in full admiration. So if you're going through this, or you know someone who's going through this, maybe you can advise this same way. Assalamu alaikum, Omar from London, mashallah. Hope you're okay there in London. I hear that Londoners aren't doing very well with the advice on the corona right now, and inshallah you're protected and safe. Right, so this story, he got a girlfriend and his parents found out, so they decided, okay, we're going to sit down and talk to him. So they did, and they gave him 3 choices. Number 1, you are not supposed to have a relationship outside of marriage. So the first thing you have to do is marry the girl. She has rights now. You have to go and you have to propose to her and you have to marry her. If you want to stay in this relationship, that's exactly what you've got to do. He might have given them 2 choices because I can't remember the third. I can only remember 2. So that was a shock to him because, you know, what, I don't want to marry her, I'm only young, and so on and so on. But I think he was only like 17 or something like this. But they said, no, if you want to continue this relationship with this girl, then you have to go and you have to marry her. We'll help you, but that's what you have to do. And the second choice that I can remember, because I can't remember if it was 3 or 2, was you are going to have to tell her it's over and cut all contact, and not, you know, if you don't want to marry her, it's not right on her that you are in this relationship because you know it's not going to go anywhere. Then you have to stop it and you have to split up. He was shocked because, first of all, for him, this is love. I'm in love, you know how teenagers are, young people, everything's love to them. I'll tell you a funny story. It's before this is before. No, I had converted at this time, but I told I don't know if any of you will know this group. There's a group in the 70s, my parents' era now, and they were called the OJs, and they sang about love and all this. Okay, so I was telling my dad I'd already converted and I was about to get married to my husband, and I was telling him, oh, Dad, he's my soulmate, you know, and all this. And my dad said, you've had more soulmates than the OJs. So sang about. So you know what it's like. You know, when you are a teenager and your young 20s, everyone to use your soulmate, right? So that was my dad's point. Anyway, going back to this story, you know, he was shocked because, of course, he didn't want at 17 to go and get married and all this, that, and the other. And on the other hand, he didn't want to leave her because I'm in love, we're in love. It's going to hurt, it's going to be painful, blah, blah. So he's like, well, I'm not just going to I need time to make my decision. So his parents said, okay, you have 1 week to decide what you're going to do. And whatever you decide, we are going to help you do, but you cannot go on with an haram relationship. They didn't sit down and scream in his face. They didn't sit down and tell him what a really bad son he was. They didn't tell him you can't go out the house ever again. No, they gave him 2 choices. You're accountable. You have to decide which one. The only way this is going to work is you either marry her or you split because you're not interested. It's not going anywhere. And you know in Islam this cannot happen. And I really liked how they handled it. So after 1 week, they took him out for lunch and, you know, they said, have you decided what you're going to do? And he said yes, and he said, I'm going to end it. And I'm getting emotional now because I remember this part. And yes, Andrew, that's what he said. I didn't find it funny at the time, by the way. So they took him out, and they said, have you decided? And he said yes. And it was really emotional because he was very upset. Of course, he felt he had genuine feelings of love for this girl, and he knew that he has to split up with her, and he knew that it's going to break her heart. He's going to break his own heart, and it's going to be a lot of pain and a lot of, process it. So, but his parents said, we're going to help you get through that, and you've made the right decision. So I'm going to find that link because it is a true story on a video that we did before, and I'll try and find it for you and put it in the comments. But I really like the way that they handled it as parents. They didn't reduce him to dirt on the floor kind of thing. They just took the whole situation and they made him accountable, and they made him realize, yes, you have you had 3 options. You can continue going down. That was the 3rd one. You can continue going to it, but you're going to go to hell if you don't repent and you don't stop it. So he had 3 options there. So, we do, as parents, have a part to play. That doesn't make our kids feel terrible, but at the same time hold them accountable if they do fall down that trap. And it is difficult in this world, as I said. It really is difficult. I think being a parent nowadays, it's going to be so much harder in many ways because of what our kids are exposed to. And we're just going to have to ask Allah to guide us and help us and help our teens through this. So it really is important that if our kids, and they are in these kind of relationships, especially right before Ramadan, but it should be throughout the year, get them to stop, but do it in a good way, that they are not feeling like they are the trash of the earth, so to speak. And try and bring them out of it, bring them away from this kind of thing with the tips I said, good activities, healthy activities, good friends, and so on. And it's really important for them to do it from now, because if you get there before Ramadan and then they can last throughout that, then they're going to come away from it altogether as much as possible, as much as is possible. So don't stick your head in the sand and pretend it's not happening. Don't stick your head in the sand and pretend that this is not the world we live in. We do. We live in such a world now, and we have to face it, and we have to acknowledge that they are facing more issues than we ever did, and we have to be there for them as their parents, but as their friends, because they are old enough at this point to have you as their friend as well. So I hope that's helped a little bit. I'm going to leave you a link in from the actual article where I've took that from, and I will also find that video. And I just hope, brothers and sisters, we can all raise our kids into righteous, good people, and that we can help guide them, and that if they do make such mistakes, we aren't going to be so harsh on them to the point they feel that they can't come to us and tell us anything. So may Allah guide all our youth and all our teenagers, and all of you as well if you're listening, and may Allah help you if you are a young person and you are going through this thing. May Allah help you, really, because it is a very difficult world we're living in today. I used to think when I was growing up in the 90s, I was a teenager, it was hard, but it's much harder now. And we have so much on our we have so much more harder things to face. The kids do. The kids, they're really going to have it tough, aren't they? So let us all hope that Allah guides all of us, inshallah. So brothers and sisters, that's it for me today. Went on a bit longer than normal. Jazakallah khair, Miz. I'm glad you enjoyed it, inshallah. I'll try and come up with a good topic next week as well. Join me all next week at a similar time, inshallah, for another spiritually preparing for Ramadan. And may Allah protect all of you from coronavirus. Stay home, wash your hands, don't go out, don't put anyone in danger, including yourselves, your elderly loved ones, and other elderly people, please, please, please follow the advice that's been given to you, so we can knock this thing on its head and we can try and get back to life as normal as possible. Please, brothers and sisters, we do have an obligation and a duty to listen to what's being said to us, and we do need to follow that advice. So stay safe, brothers and sisters. May Allah protect us all from this coronavirus, and protect all of our loved ones as well. I will see you all next week. Stay safe. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.